For centuries, information security relied on keeping the method a secret. If you hide the lock's mechanism, no one can pick it. Modern cryptography abandons this legacy. It transforms information security into a rigorous science, defined by mathematical proofs and computational complexity. This shift is governed by Kirchhoff's principle. It states that a cryptographic system must be completely secure even if everything about its internal workings, except the key, is public knowledge. Exposing the source code allows the global academic community to aggressively hunt for vulnerabilities before the software is ever deployed in production. To verify that an open algorithm is actually secure, cryptographers rely on reduction proofs. They stress test a system by attempting to mathematically prove that if an attacker could find a way to break the encryption, that theoretical attack collapses entirely into the solution for a known, practically unsolvable mathematical problem. This means breaking a properly designed encryption architecture is no longer a matter of guessing a clever password or finding a backdoor. It requires solving a centuries-old math problem that the world's most powerful computers cannot calculate in a polynomial timeframe. Algorithms that use a single, symmetric key for both encryption and decryption are incredibly fast. They process massive streams of data with minimal hardware overhead. But they face a severe logistical roadblock, the key distribution problem. For two computers to communicate securely using symmetric encryption, they must first share that identical secret key. Yet doing so requires sending the key across the very public, heavily monitored internet they are trying to protect themselves against. In 1976, cryptographers Whitfield Diffie and Diffie-Hellman solved this apparent impossibility. They introduced public key, or asymmetric cryptography, a mathematical framework allowing two entities to agree on a shared secret over a completely unsecured channel without ever actually transmitting the secret itself. Today, global network security does not rely on any single algorithm. Instead, modern protocols like TLS 1.3 utilize a hybrid encryption pipeline. They chain the mathematical elegance of asymmetric key exchange together with the sheer speed of symmetric bulk encryption. Deconstructing this hybrid architecture reveals exactly how the modern internet defends your data against active surveillance today and prepares for the computational threats of tomorrow. Every secure connection on the web begins with Phase 1, the asymmetric key exchange. Here, the client and server negotiate a shared secret before a single byte of user data is sent. Early systems used the RSA algorithm and prime number factorization for this step, but RSA requires enormous key sizes, often 2048 or 3072 bits, to remain secure, which severely taxes network bandwidth. Today, TLS 1.3 relies on elliptic curve cryptography, or ECC, which provides equivalent security with a much leaner 256-bit key. The security of ECC is rooted in the elliptic curve discrete logarithm problem. If we plot points on a standard Weierstrass curve, we can perform point addition. We draw a line through 2 points, find where it intersects the curve a third time, and reflect it over the x-axis to locate our new point. By repeating this addition process over and over with the same point, a function called scalar multiplication, the point ricochets across the curve geometry in a seemingly chaotic pattern. This creates a mathematical one-way street, or trapdoor function. If you know the starting point and the number of bounces, the private key, it takes milliseconds to calculate the final destination point. But if an attacker intercepts only that final destination point, reversing the math to deduce the exact number of bounces is practically impossible. Using this mechanism, two blind endpoints can combine their respective public and private coordinates to calculate the exact same mathematical destination. They derive a shared session key locally without ever transmitting it over the wire. There is a severe structural flaw in running a raw key exchange. It lacks identity verification. Without knowing exactly who is on the other end of the line, a connection is completely vulnerable to a man-in-the-middle attack, where an adversary intercepts and negotiates separate keys with both parties. To solve this, Phase 2 implements digital signatures. These cryptographic proofs are layered on top of the key exchange to definitively verify the identity of the server before the connection proceeds. For years, the standard protocol for this was ECDSA, but ECDSA harbors a critical implementation vulnerability. For every single transaction, the algorithm requires a perfectly random, entirely unpredictable variable called a nonce. If a system's random number generator hiccups and accidentally reuses the same nonce for two different messages, the cryptographic math breaks down.
An attacker can set up a simple algebraic equation to extract the server's master private key, compromising the entire system. The modern cryptographic fix for this is the ED25519 algorithm, part of the ED-DSA family, which operates on twisted Edwards curves rather than standard wire stress ones. ED25519 is deterministic. Instead of querying the operating system for a random number, it generates the nonce by running a cryptographic hash on the message itself. This entirely removes the reliance on unpredictable system randomness. Theoretical mathematical security means nothing if real-world software implementation creates side-channel leaks. Deterministic algorithms eliminate these variables, tightening the defense of the network layer. Once the session key is securely negotiated and the server's identity is verified, the heavy lifting begins. The pipeline pivots to Phase 3, bulk data encryption, relying entirely on symmetric algorithms to process the actual user traffic. The global standard for this task is AES 256. It uses a substitution permutation network architecture, chunking plaintext data into fixed 128-bit blocks and organizing them into a 4x4 matrix of bytes. AES secures this data through two principles. First is confusion, achieved through a nonlinear sub-bytes transformation. The algorithm references an S-box lookup table and swaps every byte in the matrix for a different value based on Galois field multiplicative inverses. Second is diffusion, accomplished through the shift rows and mix column steps. These operations ensure that changing even a single input bit mathematically ripples out to scramble the entire matrix state within just a few rounds. AES is incredibly fast when running on hardware processors built specifically to handle it. However, in pure software environments, those S-box memory lookups create microsecond delays, making the cipher a prime target for cache collision timing attacks. Instead of memory lookup tables, ChaCha20 relies on an ARX model, add, rotate, and XOR operations. It manipulates its own 4x4 matrix of 32-bit words purely through these mathematical functions. Because these ARX operations process at a fixed speed regardless of the actual data inside the matrix, the algorithmic execution time remains perfectly constant. This makes the cipher naturally immune to timing attacks. System architects now constantly balance the hardware acceleration capabilities of AES against the software resilience of ChaCha20, ensuring high data throughput without exposing the session key to side-channel monitoring. The entire hybrid architecture of TLS 1.3 works seamlessly today, but it is built on a single, fragile assumption that classical computers simply cannot calculate the discrete logarithm problem or factor massive primes. That core assumption collapses entirely in the face of quantum computing and the theoretical execution of Shor's algorithm. Running on a sufficiently powerful quantum computer, Shor's algorithm bypasses the brute force constraints of classical processors. It can solve these specific mathematical problems in polynomial time, instantly shattering the protections of both RSA and elliptic curve cryptography. This presents an immediate threat, known as harvest now, decrypt later. State-sponsored adversaries are actively intercepting and stockpiling massive volumes of encrypted internet traffic today, holding it in data centers until quantum hardware catches up. Even though cryptographically relevant quantum computers are not fully online yet, this retroactive threat means our current asymmetric infrastructure is already functionally obsolete. To prevent a catastrophic failure of global communications, the cryptographic engineering community is proactively migrating the web's pipeline to post-quantum cryptography, or PQC. This requires rigorously testing and standardizing entirely new algorithmic frameworks, a process spearheaded by the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology. The defense strategy is a new dual-layered approach within modern TLS 1.3 connections, hybridizing our trusted legacy algorithms with quantum-resistant math. The standard elliptic curve key exchange is now run in parallel with lattice-based algorithms, like ML-Chem, to provide redundant key encapsulation. An attacker would have to break both the classical math and the quantum-resistant lattice structures to access the session key. Fortunately, the symmetric bulk algorithms, AES and ChaCha20, are inherently quantum-resistant.
Defending Phase 3 of the pipeline doesn't require entirely new frameworks. It only requires bumping the encryption keys to a 256-bit size to neutralize quantum search algorithms. The resilience of modern cryptographic architecture lies in its modularity. This structure allows engineers to hot swap the underlying mathematical bedrock of the Internet, defending against a quantum horizon without dismantling the digital world built on top of it.